Oh, I don't think my headphones are connected, but I think this is going to be laggy as hell. But no mai hoki mai. Tēnā koutou. The sacred pause. And understanding that when you break everything down, there's like a cycle. Everything has a pattern. You get to really understand that and identify. So we have a sacred pause. I had a conversation with a breathwork facilitator in Wanganui. His name is Kyle. We talked about the sacred breath, the sacred pause, on what the effects that it has on your biologics, your DNA, the vitality of your tinana, and what it does to your muscles and your bones and your blood. And that body work that we do with the breath is a very important part of healing, because it is nurturing the muscles in that energetic way. And we understand, as facilitators and practitioners working in wider realms, there has to be that biologic anchoring of the embodiment of what you know in those realms. That's why it's so important that we put structures in place in our everyday life, so we are documenting the way that we navigate through the human reality, because that's your practice, right? So in that pause that we do in the breath, but we also see it in the maramataka energy, and moving through moon cycles and moving through your period cycles, moving through your motherhood cycles, maiden, mother, crone, moving through your yearly cycle and breaking down the patterns. When you understand that, you can begin to see that there are pauses. We take winter off to integrate. And through that integration time, and that is what we were learning in the summer when we did 6-week transformations, you're learning how to implement those on that daily consciousness, and that is based on your self-concepts, right? Your self-concepts are the way that you talk to yourself. I spoke a lot about this throughout the week, about nurturing the inner child, your inner child, every day. When you learn to speak her language or their language, when you learn to go into those different realms of yourself and understand that they are what make you you. However, the way that you relate to those identities is truly how you are reflecting how you're showing up in your life. That's what that means. You act as if. Well, if you're not acting as if, you're acting as if you aren't, right? And that's lack. We talked about lack through intentions, the purity of yourselves, the purity of the way that you truly see yourself and articulate yourself, right? Through business is your practice, and whatever you're practicing, it should be what you've been fucking preaching about, right? You've learnt this through different cycles, and ultimately there is that big sisterhood wound that we do have to clear when we are working on social media, particularly for the millennials, because that our job and our generation really took it upon themselves to change the fucking world. So we're raising these children that are also healing us because it's a part of the whakapapa healing. We did the same thing for our parents. We took on a lot of that, right? So that healing and that dissolving of that mamai, that pain, that energy around the heart space, when we go into those intricacies, those are the things that become quite like they're very distracting in the wider world. When you're open, when you're working with clients and you're resonating with what's coming through because it's so personal to you, when you can go into your observer effect and hold that sacred pause in between where you end and that energy begins, that is when you are strong in your practice. You're strong in your boundaries. You're strong in your discipline. You're strong in your knowing because you know where you are in all of the space. And it's through that knowing and that believing that you are protected on all realms, right? All those affirmations that you say, you better fucking believe those. Affirmations are really good and helpful, in my humble opinion, because they can be so unbelievable to the point where it's actually a new concept and a new way of being. And sometimes the uncomfortability of whether we're like, no, that doesn't exist, that's the energy that you need to adapt into and be like, no, it's not. It hasn't been a part of my awareness, but it can be a thought form. It can be a self-concept. It can be, if I allow it to be, if I trust that I am drawn to this because it's of my highest timeline. And it is humbling, but you learn about different nervous systems when you are active in your own, because you have many different parts of your nervous system that is available to you. I feel like the nervous system is such a complex space to be in because there is that wider space that takes place, and we see this through the breath, through the practice of the breath, when we're breathing and we're like bending and we're moving and we're activating the tinana, and when you're not used to doing that so freely, you know, and really like moving yourself, it activates different parts of you. So you're actually learning your nervous system and the way that it works as a network, because you are a network. And the tools that you use to soothe those different pains within yourself are the tools that you pass on, because they're the tools that activated your wisdom. Because the pain in your past has been where you accessed your, you no longer do that. That's no longer available to you anymore, because you don't need to learn shit to get good shit. You just get it effortlessly because you believe that you've been through enough, right? That's when you put that into play. You've been through enough. So that's enough for you to hold boundaries and stay very true to what you know. But you have to understand that no one actually can read your aura and your world and your home and your wairua if you don't let them in. The only way that people can know things about you is if you let them in, and that's on all realms. So your practice and how you maintain your protection, your boundaries, your discipline, how you protect your wairua, how you protect your sexual energy, your heart, your mothering energy, that nurturing energy, how you and it's also in the shadow too, how much of your shadow you give to people. And it's all up to you. You know, you get to dictate all of that through your conscious decisions. And that is you living your life. That's you living your reality. So the breath is like logical and sensible and like scientifically studied and things like that. But your authentication and the spiritual side is not available to everybody. Because not everybody is taught and is willing to see different perspectives in that space, because you can't bypass the energy, but you can block it and be unavailable to it through dissociation. So a big part of practicing what you preach is actually practicing and moving through those blocks. I've been speaking a lot about my journey with plant medicine in the group at the moment, and it's so nice to be able to have open conversations about this, because I come from a place of judgmental energy for myself, whereas I've come from a community and I've collaborated with wahine who claim to be into plant medicine but are hella judgmental about it, to the point where they have misguided thoughts and reflections upon themselves to do with my behaviors. So ultimately, when you're open and you're easy to love, you attract that. So that's just something that I, when I was going through the journey of learning and becoming the teacher, it was in that space that I learned that that's not a bad thing. That's not terrible. You know, there could be worse things out there. And I have experienced many, many, many different trials and tribulations. And often it is to break free from the karmic patterns and the karmic lessons that we no longer desire to have, because it's not a love that we need anymore. So when we're open and easy to love, that's because our walls are down and we are pleasant to be around. When you mask, you aren't yourself. So to maintain well-balanced self, you have to be that nice, yummy, delicious, wider self. And when you're around people, you want to be somebody else's peace, right? You want to be that peace. And that peace needs to be genuine, organic, natural. That peaceful feeling just needs to be your state of being when you're just fucking chilling, picking your kid up from school, going to see your boyfriend, talking to a therapist on the phone, going into the shop, whatever it is, going for a walk, you're at the gym, going to get your nails done, your lashes done, your toes done, getting a haircut. You know, all of these people, all of those places that I just listed, those have identities in them. And who all of those people are in those spaces is who you are showing up in your mahi, in Wairua. Your clients can feel that, and that's what they want. That's what they invest into, right? And you don't have to have to work your fucking ass off into the ground and be underpaid and underfed. You can have beautiful, open, very light-hearted, yet anchored and grounded and fucking powerful exchanges, and you're not cutting off your toes as payment. Business should be pleasurable. You posting on your socials, you should be excited, happy, juicy about it. You know, there is life in the pause that we learn by slowing the fuck down, taking our time, not sharing all of the things, right? This is how we stay balanced and we stay well watered. And when you don't give it, when something is around you that feels like it's not serving your highest good, you just don't feed it. You know, if it doesn't feel nice, you just sort of starve it. You see how it reacts. And then ultimately, if it's meant to be within your grasp, it will remain. But when it's just that journey through your regulation of nervous systems that keeps you grounded. When you've mastered all of that, that's when you can step into your business, because you are not dissociating anymore. You can be a high channel. And when you have that, you're able to do large amounts of delegation in wairua, right? And you can begin to work in ebbs and flows. You can begin to work seasonally. You can begin to have 3 or 4 months where you offer in-person readings because you have enough energy. You can open your home so you can have local wahine, local tane, men and women to come in, and even just people of interest to enter into your doors, and have you utilize your channel. And then when those people leave, the work that you do within your own home for your personal self, the way that you treat yourself, is the sustenance. It is then, what you go and how you transmute that energy and you let it flow. And then there will be seasons where you want to maybe expand your business and you want to do in-person events, right? You want to hire a space. You want to go and travel the country and do readings and spend time with your friends, right? Building personal, intimate connections, the sisterhood, growing that, but also understanding that you're here to build business connections. There is a friendship in business connections. However, there are so many boundaries that you need to respect for yourself in order for you to have those good boundaries in wairua, in your business practice. It's not like you can be integral while taking somebody else's money, so you can then give everything you've got to this person, right? That is fair. That is a clean energy exchange. However, your intentions are going to be reflected in the quality of work that you are being challenged with, right? If you are seeking challenge, which I do not recommend that, it is in that it's a learning. You're not here to be challenged. You're here to be yourself. You're here to love. You're here to effortlessly show up and be easy to love, to be other people's peace, okay? So there is a time and a space where the challenge is over, the intentions are set that this is good, that this is a space in your mind, your self-concepts, the stories that you are telling yourself. It's good, it's positive, there is no resistance there. The entry is clear. You can then celebrate and begin to grow that mana, to grow that love. And yeah, this energy needs to come from you authentically in your expression, getting yourself to the point in your nervous system and having enough clear space in your 3D reality to consistently have this, because you've got good people in your circle, you've got a clean slate, you don't have people in your space that gaslight you, who want to see that previous version of yourself who was always triggered all the time. You are the peace. You are being invited into spaces and places because you feel good to be around. You're a vibe, you're a flow. You don't overgive. You have boundaries, right? You don't let shit slide. You set the tone to have very high standards, and your business can reflect that. Your business can be a a very respectable, honorable space for extremely, I want to say rich women lathered in riches of the mind, the body, and the spirit. And it is those well-watered women, which is all of you, right? That's why we glow up. That's why we did Confidence of a Goddess and we explored Wairua. That is why we did the Moon Group. All of that time and space that we did that for was to be in that sacred pause, into that regulation. The breath is beautiful because we're able to delve into the seen and the unseen realms. And when we delve into the unseen realms, we are speaking into the nervous systems that are just, is that network. So my next offering is going to be a 5-day breathwork offering, 5 mornings, so Monday through to Friday next week. Early morning breathwork session to just be in our bodies, bring some light into our spaces, into our homes. We're going to do some energy clearing. I'm going to be guiding you through, some breath work and some body movements into into all of these spaces. So we're going to do some big breathing, some full body breathing. I call this my euphoric body movements. This is a practice that I haven't used officially in a while, but I did birth this a couple of years ago when I held my last 6-month in-person and online event, and that was called Lace, and that was so beautiful. So we're bringing that back in, but it looks a lot differently now because we've got so much more wisdom and knowledge about the breath and about our bodies. I was also going on about in the Feminine Codes of Embodiment tab about the codes of I can't even remember what I was going to say. So all in all, there is this real sense of paying attention to the narrative of your own, your ownership, and being super respectful and super mindful about your focus and your force when it comes to your energy. Your focus being your intentions of why you seek and why you desire, and the force of the energy that you're placing onto that said situation, thing, or whatever it is. Are you pleasant or are you a fucking bratty bitch? There is a time and a place to be both of those things. I don't recommend you being a brat in business. I don't recommend being a brat in friendships, in sisterhoods, in collaborations. I don't believe being a brat in those spaces is going to be beneficial for you and your business. I do, however, believe that when you are being pleasant, when you are being mindful, when you are being giving, when you are listening without intention, other than to hold the person who is sitting in front of you sacredly in all of their expression, it's so beautiful when you can change the narrative in your concepts to be naturally, organically in your just state of being someone else's peace. Because you are your own peace when you are sacredly pausing. Okay? When you're taking that time to breathe, pause, listen, feel that heartbeat of your tinana, feel that space, understand your own commotion, and then growing from that, entering your beast mode, for sure. So that's where we're at. Thank you for tuning in. If you've got this far, let me know how this resonates with you. Just below would be amazing. We'll keep this conversation here. Wairua Codes has been really beautiful to be able to connect into this week. We did 4 out of 5 in our weekdays, so that's really beautiful. And ngā mihi to you if you have followed along in this journey, in this collective channeling, because all of these are energies that have come through mediumship, that have come through in the quantum field, that have landed here in Telegram, in the web that I have constructed, so I'm able to channel through wairua that's really resonant to the collective of the space. And it's also very aligned within the way that I move through my business and the way that I get to be the example. So thank you so much for joining me here in the space, allowing me to channel for you. I would love to know where you're at in your journey just with this collective energy. If you want to chat more intimately about what's happening in your life, in your reality, jump into the tabs in the group. I just seen that we've been talking in the feminine codes. So that's all good. So I will love you and I will leave you here, and I am wishing you the best Friday.